the surprising royal origin of Biryani, a fruit drink from Persia, and why the tea shop is a refuge. This week, it's Bengal, India.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. Destination Eat Drink is for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, we're exploring the diverse cuisine of Bengal, India. But first, take a moment to rate and review Destination Eat Drink. It only takes a minute on your podcast app, and it really helps the show and helps other foodie travelers just like yourself find the show. And you can support Destination Eat Drink at Buy Me a Coffee by downloading one of my Foodie Travel Guide ebooks. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Destination Eat Drink, and I'm sure you'll find something to pique your interest. Avik Mitra is a foodie travel guide for a chef's tour in Kolkata, aka Calcutta, India. Avik was born and raised in Kolkata, and he's curated a delicious food tour featuring restaurants and foodie stops that have been going strong for over 100 years. Avik tells me about Kolkata's signature dish, different kinds of tea in India, and all kinds of dishes that have made their way from around the world to the region of Bengal. We even talk a little bit about Eric Clapton and the Beatles. And I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Avik from a chef's tour in Kolkata, India. Welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. It's great to get to talk to you more about your interesting city.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you for having me again. And I can't believe time flies. I'm already back with you again. It was just a while ago before we met for the first time. And here we are again. Happy to be here again. Like I said, how have things been with you so far?
Portugal is lovely this time of year, and we're really enjoying ourselves as much as we can and enjoying some of the great food that we have to enjoy here in Portugal. But I want to talk to you about food in Kolkata, in the region of Bengal, where you live, where you grew up. First, I want to remind folks, if they want to go back and listen to the last episode, and you definitely should, I'll have a link in the show notes. But Avik, I wanted to ask you, because if folks look on a map and they look at India and then they zoom into Kolkata, your city, they'll see that you're on the far eastern side of India, not far from the border with Bangladesh. So I have to imagine that there's all kinds of influences that are coming into your city from a culinary standpoint, maybe from Bengal, from the Muslim tradition, but also I'm sure there's Arabic influences as well. Can you talk a little bit about some of those influences that are coming into your city from a food standpoint and how they manifest themselves?
Wonderfully framed question, Brent. I mean, sometimes one of the reasons why I feel so comfortable and speak in the flow over here is because of the questions that you picked. So again, hats off for this lovely framed question.
Aren't you kind?
Yes, as you understand, Calcutta has been one of the first cosmopolitan cities after London in the modern world on this side of the world. And it was an iconic destination for a lot of other geographical territories around it, which was not limited just to Indian territories, but also Southeast Asian territories. And as you would understand, one of the main reasons for Westerners and Western explorers to adapt to the sea route was to benefit trade. So Calcutta was one of the major trade destinations for Europeans, Americans, and everybody on the other side of the world. The north of India has seen a lot of Persian influence, which has been harvested not through trade, but due to the repetitive invasions that it has faced. And due to the same, because a lot of these invading classes have also chose to remain in India, they have also assimilated some cultural values from these foreign classes and ethnicities. Similarly, Calcutta, although is on the other fringe of this huge landmass called India, it has benefited by and large magnificently from a lot of trade routes held by different foreign ethnicities from different parts of the world, namely not just the West in America, but also from Persian traders. So, as you can understand, a lot of different foreign influences have been adapted seamlessly within the culture of Calcutta to benefit and progress trade. And as a lot of these trading relationships became progressive and continuous, some of their culinary cultures were also passed off to the cuisine of Calcutta, which is nothing but a melting pot of cuisines. Like people from different parts of the country coming to the city for choosing a better way of life, and the only thing that they brought along with them were their home secrets of cuisine. Once they came over here, they found a lot of influences from Westerners, Persians, and other Eastern Indians who had a lot of opinions and inputs about how that could be made more lip smacking. Some of these influences and opinions were retained and led to the evolution of the dish, and some of them were bypassed and not allowed to make any change or difference to the dish as it stands. And so on and so forth, these dishes have progressed and changed and evolved over the course of time. For example, biryani is a very fascinating dish, which is not just an iconic emblem of the fusion between Indian and Muslim, Muslim culture, which is called Mughal, branded Mughal, but also a very stark reminder of the fact that how food has adapted through different ups and downs of life and history. So, biryani was the cuisine of the nobility and the royalty, which was held by the Islamic classes from Persia at that point of time in India.
Oh.
As the Islamic nobility and royalty, which had started making its settlement from the north, started seeing a decline, they were pushed towards the eastern fringes of the country, towards this side of the country on the east. Rice and cultivation was majorly done over here, but there were no industries locally. So, meat, which was a very choicest ingredient in the biryani for a lot of Islamic nobility, was not always made available due to lacking resources or whatever. So the chefs in these areas, they made up for the lack of meat with sometimes implementing eggs in it, and sometimes where things were so bad that there was no eggs and no meat or even, they started inputting potatoes inside the biryani.
Okay.
So, in course of time, with all these inputs and adaptations having assimilated itself seamlessly, the Calcutta biryani holds a unique stature for itself in biryani cuisine altogether, as the only one which has not just meat, eggs, and also potatoes inside it, and it's very dry. Very unlike the biryani that is found anywhere in India, be it Hyderabad, be it Bombay, or be it even Lucknow. So, and this difference is again because the only foreign influence at the point of inception was from the Persians in the north of India. But by the time biryani came to the east, there was a lot of input coming to it, which was not just limited to Persians or Persian Islamists, but a lot of other Islamic influence and a lot of other foreign influence in terms of the West, American as well as the European diversity. Their taste buds were also different. They put in opinions wherein how they would have liked it better. And taking all the inputs from different quarters, biryani has today evolved in Calcutta to become a signature specialty dish of Calcutta cuisine. Completely different and totally poles apart from the biryani that is prevalent and popular in the rest of India. So, very beautiful question that you've asked me. And almost like Eric Clapton, when he sits on the stage with a guitar and very tearfully he sings Wonderful Tonight, he's such a genius. He makes it seem so easy. A child watching this on the TV thinks, oh, it's a simple, I'll do it. I can do it. It's not that difficult. I can do it as well. Yeah. It's almost like that. It's a mark of a genius to summarize the most complicated things in a line or two. So, with your beautiful question, I have summarized the evolution and progress of Indian cuisine over the span of a few lines. So, again, all the credit goes to you.
No, I think the credit goes to you, Avik. And it's so interesting that you brought up Eric Clapton and Wonderful Tonight, because there's a connection to India, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, to that song, because Eric Clapton wrote it about his then wife, Pattie Boyd, who was married to George Harrison from the Beatles, and Pattie and George did spend time in India in 1968, and this is where a lot of the ideas for the Beatles' White Album came from. So there is a connection to Wonderful Tonight to India, which is interesting. But I did want to bring up, I've been eating biryani for most of my adult life and had no idea the ties that it had to Persia. I always just assumed, because of the rice, that it was and the spices, that it was an indigenous Indian dish. But it turns out, like so many others, it originally came from somewhere else and was adapted to the new place where it landed. That's a fascinating story.
To add another interesting nugget of information on those lines, about a food item that is extremely popular in India, mainland India, the northern, and the extremely popular in the whole of India, not just Calcutta. And for a lot of people who are not Indians, the rest of the world, they associate it as an indigenous Indian dish, but that is also not an Indian dish. It has its origins elsewhere, which is samosa.
Oh,
you've heard of samosa?
Of course.
It's like a pyramidal vegetable-filled patty made from flour. Samosa originated in Uzbekistan.
Oh.
And it is still prevalent in Uzbekistan. The Indian version being fluffy, the Uzbek version is flat, triangular, but instead of being a pyramid, 3-dimensional, it's 2-dimensional and flat. And it's called samsa.
That's so interesting. You know, Avik, here in our little city in Portugal, we have not one, but two restaurants of Nepalese cuisine. And I know that Nepal is to the north of India. I'm wondering, because Nepalese people migrate all over the world. There's more Nepalese people in Portugal than there are North Americans by a big margin. And they're starting to flex their influence by opening these amazing Nepalese restaurants. I'm wondering, do you have any influence from Nepal in your part of India?
Yeah, I mean, one of Nepal's most staple food items has now made a major splash in India's cuisine across all quarters, not just in Calcutta, but Delhi, Bombay, and Madras, Chennai equally, is the Nepalese momos.
Yes.
Momos, although they originated in Tibet, they have been made global by Nepalese people, especially because of their penchant for being hardworking and traveling to all quarters, like you rightly mentioned, all quarters of the world. So again, the credit goes to them for making it a global culinary thoroughfare. But momos had originated in Tibet, and because of its closeted nature and harsh environment, flour that was steamed with some fillings inside, which could be vegetables or could be meat, minced meat, and then steamed, because again the shortage of fuel resources as well. That is how momos originated in Tibet, to make do from whatever they have in that cold climatic condition. But again, as they arrived so Nepalese people, they would, in the olden times, they would go to work for two purposes. They would go to work in Tibet to be paid in gold. and they would come to work in India to be paid in salt. These were the only two things they did not have. That apart, they were plentifully blessed by nature.
And it goes both ways. Not only does the food go from Nepal to India, but it goes from India to Nepal, because I noticed on the menus here, the Nepalese restaurants also often have, they always have curries, but they often have pani puri, which I'm familiar with as an Indian dish. So I'm always delighted when I see that on a Nepalese menu.
80 to 85% of Nepal is uphill. The 10 to 15% of Nepal, which is on a flat terrain, is overlapping that part of India, which is known as Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. And these two places where they overlap, they have also overlapped their customs and traditions with a lot of plain-like customs and traditions. So the adding additional curry items that you see on a typical Nepalese thali or a dish could be from their Indian influences in the Terai region, which is in the plains. Also continuing on this part, which is also very funny for me to mention in this context, and probably for you to discover in the future if you already not have discovered, is the fact that in London, the curry lane is known as Brick Lane. And when you enter Brick Lane, the signboard, that is one signboard in London, in the heart of London city, which has first an English translation subscript, followed by a Bengali language subscript of Brick Lane written over there. All the curry houses are run by Bangladeshis.
Oh.
And they sell only Indian curries, which are very popular among the local people, especially because they work wonders on the palate after a heavy night of drinking.
Yes.
But such is life. Yeah, they picked up a skill set, and they realized they discovered a market for it, and that's how life has been for them.
I did want to ask you about this one cordial called sherbet, because you mentioned the Persian influence, and my limited research tells me that this originated in present-day Iran, which is, Persia. So I'm wondering, is that, when we talk about Persian influence, is the sherbet one of those examples?
Sharbat is probably one of the best gifts that the Persian Empire could have provided to India. And it's possibly the last of the Persian scion that still exists or holds on to its ground. Because in this modern day of energy drinks and fast drinks and everything, the Sharbat is slowly losing its ground because of its adamance to employ the use of only natural ingredients. And thus it makes it local to a few places where those ingredients are abundantly available. So yeah, but such is life. So Sharbat, again, like you've likely pointed out, Brent, Sharbat is a contribution of the Persian Empire, and one of the first Sharbat that was created out of India's bountiful natural harvest available was the Rose Sharbat, which was made by harvesting rose petals and grinding them and then brewing them into a nice, interesting drink. Which also goes to say that although technology per se in the form of instruments and appliances was introduced after the British arrived over here by the Westerners, the concept of making iced drinks was prevalent in Persia much, much before that. They had made wind turbines under the level of land 4 to 6 feet below, they would store ice, and during summer months they would bring out this ice and use it to make cold drinks or cold refreshment drinks, which were called sharbat. So once they came over here and they passed that knowledge, that old knowledge, to the Indian counterpart, it also took to form, along with the form of another very interesting dessert item that was prevalent over there, and that came over here, and that has also evolved, known as falude. Over there in Persia it was called falude. Over here it's now called faluda. And faluda has become a very staple Indian dessert item along with kulfi. These are both natural deserts, you could say ice creams and deserts, but they are both contributions to the Persian Empire. And you have to understand that refrigeration by using thermostat, the concept of thermostat and thermal engineering happened only in the late 18th century. But Persians had developed the concept of storing ice and iced deserts by making wind turbines, which was again passed off to the Indian counterparts when they came over here. And these traditions have followed on and they still remain in India. Kulfi and Falude.
Would we have these drinks? Are they in street carts? Do I go into a restaurant to get them? What is the format? What is the venue where I would enjoy these drinks?
So when we are in the commercial parts, in order for the commercial outlets to thrive and make their business grow, they have ice creams in these parts, in the commercial centers. To try things like Faluda and Kulfi, which are very traditional and have very traditional ingredients as well, you're very correct in saying that you have to come to carts, ice cream carts or Kulfi carts which sell them. Like your ice cream vendors over there, they are indigenous vendors over here who make the dish or the dessert during the daytime, and once they are prepared, they take them out to be sold in the evening in small, very indigenous quirky carts. And they are usually restricted around the local areas where they would not be overlapping or clashing into the commercial interest of other ice cream or similar enterprises. So that is the beauty of the tour. Once you come through me, although we start in the commercial area, we dive deep into the residential districts. It's very likely that you try on one of these tours, especially if you are in the summers, you try one of these kulfi or faluda to beat off the heat and dig into one of the oldest Indian traditional desserts that has Persian roots.
Sounds like a very rich experience, Avik. And I want to remind folks, if they want to book a tour with you, they can do so at chefstour.com. I did want to talk about coffee and tea because both of them are fairly important in India. But I'm wondering, as you as a local, when you go out, are you getting a cup of coffee? Are you getting a cup of tea? Are you ambivalent to whatever you feel like that particular day? What is the beverage culture like during the day in Kolkata?
Again, a wonderful question, a very thought-provoking and very beautifully framed question, Brent. Before I start answering the question, another very interesting anecdote for your viewers and for you to ponder upon. Tea, wherever it is spread through the land route in the world, is known as cha, C-H-A, cha, or some derivative of cha. In Russia, it's called cha-cha. In China, it's called cha. In India, it's called chai, so on and so forth. Tea, wherever it is spread through the sea route, is known as tea or some derivative of tea. There is only one place in India where tea is not called chai. Any idea what place that is?
So I'm going to guess it's somewhere where it ventured by the sea route, and I'm going to guess Goa.
Not too bad. You have guessed Goa. I guess you were trying to say Goa. Not
Goa. Yes, Goa.
Goa, yes.
Because of the Portuguese influence,
exactly,
that's why.
Exactly, influence over there. Exactly. Very, very good answer. But the correct answer is Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
Tamil Nadu is one stark contradiction to the rest of India, which thrives on a plentiful tea culture. Tamil Nadu, as opposed to the rest of the Indian culture, is the only state in India which not just has coffee plantations, but also thrives on the coffee culture. People traditionally go out for a cup of coffee as opposed to a cup of tea. Tamil Nadu, because it is at the tip of the Indian peninsula, is known for having kings who were very futuristic, visionary explorers. And talking about, earlier we were talking about my religion. One of the oldest Vaishnav monuments dedicated to Lord Vishnu is not in India. It is in Angkor Wat, Cambodia. And it was built by these Tamil kings. who were all Vaishnav and believers of Lord Vishnu. Angkor Wat is said to be a microcosm of the original macrocosm of the celestial planet where Lord Vishnu stays, which is known as Vaikunt. So, again, the purpose of saying all this was the fact that as opposed to venturing into the landmass of India northwards, Tamil kings, Tamil Nadu has always been considered to be the seat of civilization in India, and Tamil kings who were visionary explorers have always ventured seaways for the search of better fortunes and opportunities. So Tamil Nadu is the only place in India where tea has become, like you rightly pointed out, has found origin or found footage due to the sea route, and it is called thenir. Instead of cha, it's called thenir. Also, because Tamil Nadu is the tip of the Indian peninsula and was probably one of the first landmarks for trade relations to begin with the rest of the world, it has benefited from a lot of trade with Arab regions where coffee originated. And hence, it is the only part of India where there are coffee plantations as opposed to the rest of India where there are tea plantations that were planted by the British that do not have any Indian origin to it. But coffee plantations were always held by the locals over there, and they are still maintained and caretaken by the locals over there only. They are all local assets over there. So this is just the interesting story bit. Now coming to the rest of your question. Because modern India is a British asset, undivided India is the entire landmass starting from Thailand, Burma, all the way up to Iran. That is undivided India. Modern India territorially marked from the edge of Bengal all the way up to the edge of Maharashtra over there and all the way up to the north, Kashmir, has all been explored and excavated by the British. And their format of life, they are just carrying forward the British inculcated way of life to govern India. The same format they are carrying on. Offices, work structure, whatever. All of this area benefits greatly from the concept of tea culture, which is just further to the pub culture in England, where people would go to the pub and unwind over a drink. Similarly, people all over India, be it Calcutta, be it Bombay, be it Delhi, these three places, not in Madras, everywhere people, if they have to unwind after a busy day at work, they go to a tea shop, which is like a roadside small shanty, which is the equivalent of the pub in Calcutta, equivalent of the British pub in Calcutta, where people at home, we usually, because we are staying with people of different ages, a grandmother, in joint families usually, traditionally, people of different walks of life stay together. There could be a grandmother, a grandfather, mother, father, auntie, cousin, so on and so forth. So at home, people are quite shackled because they always have to show their respect to the elders. So they come, and then again at work, they are quite shackled because they are there for pursuit of work. So they usually unwind after a busy day at work. Across all ages, people unwind at the tea shop, which is the equivalent of the British pub, and which is basically the university of life. People from all walks of life across all ages come and unwind in a tea shop in Calcutta, and they speak about their experiences, exchange their experiences, and it's no holds barred. Often, a lot of these people are also very inviting very inviting towards any newcomers, whether they are foreigners to India or foreigners to Calcutta. So often on my tours, when I'm passing by one of these tea shops, which are very local, and they don't have any English signage, they are more likely for anyone non-local to miss than to spot because of their nondescript nature. And often when I take my guests and they sat over there, local people take to them like duck to water, and despite obviously facing a language barrier, somehow it doesn't stop them, it doesn't inhibit them from sharing their experiences because of the belief that love per se has no languages. I am trying to convey my my experiences through the communication of love through you. Possibly not the language, but you will get the gist of my summary or experiences. This is what happens over here. And often a lot of the guests that I've taken over there, they have been very uniquely charmed by the entire experience, not just by the cup of tea, which is prepared in front of their eyes, and they are very excited by the whole, no holds barred experience. So they're up with their camera, and when the tea vendor, he sees that, he is now the center of all attention, he also throws in a few stunts. So it becomes a spectacle for everybody involved, and they capture it all on their on the mobile cameras and everything. And then once they are done, they enjoy the cup of tea, and it really catches them by surprise, the taste and the warmth and the freshness of all these spices. Then they start to unwind with the locals sat around them. Some of them can speak English, some of them can't. Some of them can speak broken English, but somehow nothing comes in between of having a great conversation.
That sounds like an amazing experience. And my follow-up question is, as a person who's interested in food, what kind of tea would be typical? Are we talking green tea, black tea, Darjeeling, Oolong? What type of tea, what variety of tea would we most commonly be consuming?
See, tea harvest, there are 3 tea harvests in a year. The first 2 harvests are whole leaf teas. Whole leaf teas could be green tea or black tea. Black tea has more caffeine. Green tea is more soothing and refreshing because it has less caffeine. It has more tannins, which contribute to your feelings and make you feel better. Indian market, so whole leaf teas are meant to be steeped in hot water, and they do not support any additional ingredients to be added them. And the market for whole leaf teas is usually Europe and some portions of America, where they consume whole leaf teas. Indian tea, which is the concoction of such a lot of ingredients and additives like milk and everything, is supported by the dust of the black tea. The crumbs of the black tea, which have no other market, are used to be packed in the Indian diaspora, Indian market, which are then used to make a cup of Indian tea, which is basically tea leaves, water, then milk, then sugar as per taste, and then spices as per preference. So this employs the use of black tea leaves, which are the crumbs of black tea, which are then rolled into a process known as CTC, crush, tear, curl. And then these leaves are packaged into packets and then distributed all across the eastern and northern scope of India. That's how, in the west as well. These are the places where they like the tea rich, milky, and sweet.
Before I let you go, Avik, I did want to ask you, as we come to India, this would be for many Americans, for many Europeans, a once in a lifetime trip to come to India, to come to Kolkata and to visit you and to go on your tour. But I'm wondering, when we go there, is there something that would be considered a signature dish? This is the one thing that you must try when you come to your city. Otherwise, it won't be a complete experience.
Calcutta has also benefited, especially Calcutta cuisine has also benefited largely from inputs from all over the world, thanks to different people from different ethnicities coming and settling over here for pursuit of work. So ideally, although Calcutta is in the heart of the Indian landscape, it has also accepted meat as a part of its tradition, culinary tradition, because of the different diversities of cultures that are present within its scope. So, although meat per se doesn't find a staple position in a lot of Indian cuisine, but Calcutta has its own signature meat curry, whose popularity has traveled far and wide. And often a lot of travelers who research before visiting often look forward to the same. The signature dish in Calcutta is called mutton kosha, which is basically slow cooked goat curry in cinnamon as one of the main spices and in its own juices. And safe to say it breaks barriers because of the cinnamon spicing in it. It gives you flavor, but at the same time is not overtly hot to make anyone who is not used to it very uncomfortable. Like a Westerner or a foreigner who has subtle levels of spice tolerance, they would enjoy the flavor. At the same time, they would be slightly captivated by the spice in it. But it would not be a deterrent even for sensitive stomachs. Such is the concoction of spices and flavors and the meat in it. Because a young goat, the meat is usually very rigid. But for the spices and the flavors to be seeped into the very core of the meat, it is slow cooked in the presence of these signature spices and its own juices, where the entire flavors are seeped in by the meat without altering the texture of the meat. Reiterating on the lines that you just said earlier, that for a lot of people, especially foreigners and Westerners, Americans, Europeans, it's the journey of a lifetime. And I, as a tour operator, I understand this, and this entire tour has been created in a way to hit the nail on its head in the first go, to give you the actual India experience without having to spend a lifetime in India. And it also aligns with my spiritual and religious ideology, because often we say in India the guest is a form of God. So me being a humble servant of the God, of the Lord Almighty, I just take to my role and show you the best that the city has to offer in just a span of 4 hours.
So well put, Avik. I've been talking to you now last week and then again this week, and I'm just kind of amazed that I can bring up any topic and you can just run with it so effortlessly. And that's something that I really appreciate. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been just not only entertaining, not only interesting, but also educational. And I thank you for that. Folks can reach you at chefstour.com, and I would highly encourage them to look you up and to book a tour when they go to India. Thanks for being on Destination Eat Drink today. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ben. Like I said earlier, it takes one to know another. You bring out the best in me. So all the thanks to you. All the credit goes to you.
Okay, that's Avik from A Chef's Tour. What a smart and entertaining guy he is. Check out his Kolkata tour at achefstour.com. And if you'd like to hear more of my conversation with Avik, I have the whole interview available to members of my Substack. Avik tells me about the religion he practices called Vaishnavism. It's incredibly interesting, and you can hear that on my Substack at destinationeatdrink.substack.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're in exotic Tahiti for star apples, casse-croûte chow mein, and discovering your culinary identity. Don't miss that. Until then, there's plenty of foodie travel to keep you going at destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a story about a cracker from Italy, and I know crackers don't sound too interesting, but trust me, Tarali are amazing. Read about them at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. I also just posted a brand new video. This one is from our city of Setúbal, Portugal, where we celebrate a local poet who wrote racy verses on Bocage Day. You can watch that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.